Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dashcoin Research Podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Wenzel, and today I have Tony on from Marine Snow. Tony is building a social music streaming platform for the music connoisseurs. Tony, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here and chat.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, sunshine and, heat. I'm happy. My family's from the Caribbean, as we may or may not talk about. So, yeah, this is my natural habitat.
Hell yeah. I love it when it's warm, too. So tell me a little bit about yourself and, your background, and then, what led up to you launching creating this product.
Yeah, I like to start my story at point zero, just because I can give you some color that is not as boring as me regurgitating my LinkedIn. But and maybe I will start by with the fact that I'm the son of two immigrants from the Caribbean, and I bring that up because it's had a pretty big impact on my life now that I'm older and can reflect and psychoanalyze to some degree. But I would say it had a really big impact on my life in two main ways. The first is, growing up, I felt in between a bunch of different forms of identity. I felt partially Caribbean, but not necessarily fully Caribbean. My cousins, for example, would make fun of me when I went back for how American I sounded. I felt partially American, but not fully American. I would bring very Caribbean lunches to school and elementary school, and people would be like, "What is that? That smells funny." Very classic third culture kid story. And then even being Black American, my parents are from a majority Black, tiny country, and they moved to a minority Black, huge country. And as such, that experience is very different. And so music is how I cut to the core of what it meant to be any one of those three things. And more importantly, music is how I felt like it could be all three of those things at the same time. So I've been obsessed with music since I was 8 or 9 years old. My parents could tell you how obsessed I was, even at that young age. I was the kind of kid who was playing my dad's Carlos Santana CDs so much that I was scratching them, which is pretty hard to do for a CD. It's why CDs are better than vinyls, because they scratch way less often. I was the kind of kid who, although my lunches were not popular in elementary school, they actually were popular in middle school, because I went to a much more progressive middle school and ended up selling my lunches to my classmates, unbeknownst to my parents, to buy my first iPod behind their back. And then once I got that iPod, I was also the kind of kid who got multiple cease and desists for torrenting thousands of songs. So, I think that's really where I begin my story, and I use that as an anchor to say that I'm really obsessed with music, the ways that we consume music. I've been lucky enough to see a variety of different ways of how we consume and discover music, from my mom's first car having a cassette player, to the CD era, to the ability to burn CDs, to the blog era, to piracy, to Pandora and that type of music streaming, to more on-demand music streaming with Spotify. And I've always just kind of been interested in what the evolution of music technology is, because I think in a lot of ways it shapes what we listen to. So that's kind of my background. And then from a professional standpoint, more just giving you the LinkedIn points. I went to college at UChicago, and I bring that up only to say that I threw concerts when I was in college. All 4 years in college, I brought people like Chance the Rapper in 2013. Who else? T-Pain, 2015. Nelly, Ludacris, Sleigh Bells, Matt and Kim, Neon Indian, Cashmere Cat, Danny Brown. So that's really when I understood that you could work in music and that it could be more than a hobby. And then I graduated from college on a Saturday. I moved to New York on a Sunday, and I started interning for SoundCloud on a Monday. And I interned at SoundCloud in 2015, and then I worked in management consulting for 2 years. I actually interned at SoundCloud with already having the consulting job, and then I did that from 2015 to 17, and then I worked at Spotify from 2017 to 2019. Then I worked for Frank Ocean for pretty much all of 2019, and then I left to think about starting Marine Snow. So here we are many years later.
Wow, that's quite the music lover background. I love it. Would you say that Marine Snow is a product you built for yourself, loving music so much that you felt these are whatever pain points you're solving with it is something that you had?
Yeah, I think that's right. I would say Marine Snow is built from a threefold perspective. The first is my music connoisseur consumer experience. I think you're exactly right. When I worked at Spotify, compared to when I worked at SoundCloud, I kind of felt like my taste in music got worse, just to be honest, because of the way that the algorithms and filter bubbles work on Spotify. And I knew I wasn't the only one who felt that way, that Spotify was increasingly like spoon-feeding people pretty mainstream, run-of-the-mill content. And so I loved SoundCloud, but I also understood that it was like very hard to like find the gems within SoundCloud. You had to like follow a lot of accounts, listen to a lot of mixes, listen to like a lot of like mediocre music to get to the gems. And so I was always kind of interested from a consumer perspective, could you combine the ease of consumption of Spotify with like the quality of content of SoundCloud? And so that was like the first set of pain points. But then I also, and that was like the consumer perspective. But then I also knew that artists kind of hated Spotify, just to be honest, particularly the kinds of artists that I liked. Boundary pushing, innovative, hard to define artists. And so I also knew that there was maybe room for a service that had like maybe a different economic model of how they paid artists. And then I also started Marine Snow from like a business standpoint where Spotify is pretty structurally unprofitable, and we could talk about why that is if you're curious, but Spotify is just now turning a profit, and Spotify is like 15 years old. And so the reason why that is because Spotify pays out 80 cents of every dollar that comes into the rights holders. And that makes it really hard to build like a strong business. And so I also knew that there was maybe room for a business that like paid rights holders in a different way that was beneficial for everybody involved. And all of those things led me to increasingly think that Spotify was kind of like the basic cable of music. This metaphor is like very America specific, so I can't speak to like what the cable landscape or video streaming landscape looks like in other countries. But in the US, like when you turn on your TV, that outside of the 3 or 4 network channels, it's cable. But basic cable is pretty unique or interesting in 3 main ways. The first is that it's built for like somebody who's not paying attention. So if you look at like political cable news or even Sports Center, what you'll find is that it's very repetitive, right? Like every 30 minutes they're repeating the same stories. And that's because they know you're not really like locked in. You're maybe watching while you're on the elliptical at the gym or you're washing dishes. So cable is really a product that's built for like a lean back consumer. And I think Spotify is also increasingly a product that's built for a lean back consumer where music is designed to be in the background as you're like gaming or studying or cooking or in the car. And so that's kind of the way that I think Spotify, or one of the ways that I think Spotify's like cable. The second is that the content bundle is commodified, right? No matter who your basic cable provider is, whether you're in California or DC or New York, you get the exact same channels, right? And very similarly, whether you use Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal or Deezer, you get the exact same music. And so that's the second way that I think Spotify is like basic cable. And then the third is that if you look at the history of cable, originally cable was just the 3 channels that everybody got over the airwaves, but it was delivering those channels to places outside of the range of antenna. If you lived in like Boulder, Colorado, and the mountains got in the way, you couldn't get TV. Or if you lived in like Marfa, Texas, and you were just too far away from like a antenna, then you just didn't get TV. And so cable was designed to deliver TV in all those places, but then they realized that they could fit more channels in than just those 3 channels, and they could use that as a way to get people in New York and LA who already had the 3 network TV channels to pay for cable. But the way that they created cable channels was just kind of like funny and like not necessarily in keeping with the times. They were saying things like people like sports. What if we give them sports 24/7? And that's ESPN. People like news. What if we give them news 24/7? That's CNN. There are black people. What if we made cable for them? That's BET. And the most egregious example is if you look at Lifetime's first slogan, it was just cable for women, which is just kind of absurd. And I think Spotify kind of talks down to its audience in a very similar way, in that 90% of all Spotify owned and operated playlists are either genre-based, mood-based, or moment-based. And I just don't think that's the way that people who really care about music listen to music. And so, to put a bow on this very extended metaphor, if you agree with me that Spotify's kind of like the basic cable of music for those three main reasons, right? The content bundle is commodified. The audience segmentation is not really in keeping with the times, and it's built for a lean back consumer. I've always been interested in what HBO could look like, which HBO is like built for a lean forward consumer, right? HBO stands for home box office, and the idea is that the shows on HBO are as compelling as like going to the movies. But HBO is not like organized around any one audience segment, at least from a genre perspective. HBO has comedy, they have drama, they have stand-up comedy, they have sci-fi, you know. But HBO is kind of built for a connoisseur consumer. And they, in the beginning of HBO's history, they were willing to bet that people would pay on top of their existing cable subscription for HBO. And that's why I used the metaphor for Marine Snow. And so, yeah, Marine Snow is solving my consumer pain points, but it's also solving the pain points of like artists that really push culture forward, and also solving like some structural challenges that Spotify has as a business.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like the analogy. And now describe to me kind of more of the details about Marine Snow and what it is as a product, because I get the analogy of what you're going for, and now I'm really curious to hear the details of what it is.
Yeah, so I would say Marine Snow is like three things intertwined in like a spiral. It is a curated music streaming service. Number one is it's a curated music streaming service that has exclusive songs that you cannot get anywhere else. And I mean that like in the most literal definitional sense, and that we pay artists for the rights to exclusively stream one song for a 90-day exclusivity window. After that, the songs are no longer exclusive, and it's up to the artist to figure out what they want to do. But you can trust that every time you open the app, that every single song on Marine Snow you cannot get anywhere else. And that's also why I use the video analogy. Like when you open HBO is not promising you every TV show ever made, right? They're promising you a subset of all the TV shows ever made that are like good shows, right? And that you cannot get anywhere else, right? So that's like the first pillar of Marine Snow. The second is like a vertical social network for people who really care about music. There are forums that look pretty similar to like Reddit in a lot of ways. There are profiles. There are comments on songs the way that there are on YouTube videos, but there are not on Spotify, right? There are DMs. Spotify used to have DMs and removed DMs, and we can talk about why that is. But so yeah, it's not just that you're coming for songs you can't get anywhere else, but you're staying for the community of people who care about music, and you're actually finding out about songs that are not exclusive through that community, right? Like, in order to get somebody who really cares about music, I think you need other people to share music with them, right? Because we're not going to have a monopoly on all the good music in the world. So those are that's kind of the second pillar of Marine Snow. And then the third is like a set of game-like or game mechanic features that kind of tie the first two together. So like, depending on what tier of Marine Snow you have, some of the songs start locked. And you have to unlock them through your participation in the app, through like sharing songs with other people, through commenting in the forums, through DMing people, through commenting on songs. So, and it's very visually game looking. You like when you unlock the songs, it's like this grand cinematic looking experience. So yeah, I would say those are the three things that fundamentally make Marine Snow. I think over time, if you wanted to generalize outside of music, which I think is our plan in the long term, Marine Snow is just about like community and curated content and the flywheel between those two, where the community can inform the curated content and the curated content draws the community. So that's really Marine Snow at its core.
I love it. Interesting. What's the so when did you launch it, and what are the users looking like since then? Have you noticed like any big upticks during certain events, or has it been kind of like a slow and steady gain of users? And yeah, what's that been looking like?
Yeah, we launched in 2022. I would say it's been slow and steady. Although you know, I like to be pretty honest. Like we've the app has been down for a little bit as we just like rethink things and also like seek new money, which is part of the reason why I launched a token amongst many others. But yeah, I would say it kind of goes like this, and then little jumps, and then little jumps. Sometimes or maybe the best way to frame this is that we kind of have like a built-in influencer model with like having exclusive songs, which I don't think people fully understand sometimes, which is that like artists are some of the most followed people across all social media platforms, maybe like next to soccer players. And an artist that we work with is very incentivized to share their song dropping on Marine Snow to their audience, right? Like they want people to listen to their music. And so, yeah, the median artist we work with has about like 30,000, 50,000 followers across all social media. And so when they broadcast to their followers that they have a new song, we attract about 1% of that artist's audience, which is like 300 to 500 people. I would say about like half stick around, maybe like 60% of those people pay us money. So yeah, that's kind of like the way the flywheel works, is that we use the artists we work with to attract their fans who want to check out one song, and then we hope they stick around for the other songs plus the community. So yeah, I would say we've had pretty steady linear growth. Like there's some interesting things that I want to do like on TikTok and with like getting people to like make TikTok content for us, because I think we could really explode on TikTok because we have unique music. And one thing that we do that's maybe interesting to folks is that like when we sign a contract with an artist, we own the rights exclusively, but then we keep those rights for like the exclusive full song, but then we also sub-license the songs to TikTok, Snap, and Instagram in short form. So like if somebody wants to make a video with a Marine Snow song, they can, and that serves as like marketing for us, right? And there's like a social status element when you make when you make a video with a song that you can't consume except for one place, right? You look cool or like, right? So that's also what we're taking advantage of when it comes to our growth.
Yeah, I really like the business model. It sounds super interesting. I like the way you're thinking about attracting like influencers to incentivize them to launch it on that one spot. What's your feedback been from those influencers? Like what do they like about the platform, and what do they not like about the platform so far?
Yeah, I would just call those influencers artists, right? And it's just the artists that we work with that happen to be influencers because people care about their music. But yeah, I think the feedback has been like very positive. Like we don't contractually obligate to artists to share their song. We hope that they do, and 95+% of all the artists we've ever worked with have shared their song on their social media, which has been really beneficial to us. And I think that's a testament to like them having a lot of goodwill for the platform. Excuse me. I think also the economic model that we have, which is not paying them per stream, but we pay one flat fee for the exclusive rights that I was mentioning. I think that really resonates with artists because a lot of artists feel like their work has value no matter how many streams it gets, right? And so being able to like tell an artist, hey, this song may get one stream, we still think it's worth money. Makes artists feel seen and valued and appreciated for their art, not just like in this very laissez-faire marketplace where their value is very only linked to like how many plays it gets. So I think artists like think very favorably of the platform, and the exclusivity is also not forever. So I think that's also another reason why artists are excited to work with us. We're not like trying to take their rights forever, So I think we have like pretty good will with artists, and that's something we've been really careful to cultivate. To be honest, like and we could have a conversation about this too, but it's why I've been like hesitant to do things in crypto, despite having a lot of ideas in crypto, and have like crypto and Web3 investors, and we've had Web3 investors for like 3 years, is because I don't want to like piss off the artists, and the artist community is still very divided on like crypto and whether it's legitimate, and feels like a scam to a lot of folks in that world. And my primary focus in the beginning was with the artist community, because I think we will only succeed if they believe in us, and we will fail if they don't. So
I think that's a great point, that there is a lot of like bad blood from, I think back in the NFT days is when a lot of the music community kind of got pulled into crypto bullshit, and they got misled by crypto nerds trying to make a buck off of their backs. And so I think they're very normal to be skeptical. And it's sad that it's all bucketed together, because one crypto project is not like another. They're all like individual. It's like saying like, I don't know, all dentists are the same. It's just like, they all do things slightly differently. So I think the details are definitely important. And I think communicating to like your artists that, you know, how you're integrating crypto is important, and I'm glad you like thought about that and you're careful about it, because the messaging is super important. So walk me through like the reasoning of why you decided to launch on Believe and like what led up to that.
Yeah, to be honest, I got approached by my friend Kieran, who is like kind of in the mix with Believe. It's unclear to me like what his actual title is right now, but I've known Kieran for a really long time. Kieran used to work at one of our investors. I've known Kieran since he was in college, I think, or maybe just out of college. But so yeah, I have always been interested in having a coin for marine snow. The ethics of Pump.Fun are like questionable, you know, in terms of like your ability to achieve success only comes if you fuck somebody else over, just to be honest, right? It's very zero sum. And that didn't appeal to me. And to me, not only did it not appeal to me from an ethical standpoint, it didn't feel aligned with building a long-term business, right? Like you might be able to get a quick buck to your point, but then like people are going to hate you for a really long time. And that I think will ultimately tank your business or screw your business. So I've always just been thinking about like issuing a coin for a bunch of reasons. The first is because I'm really interested in this concept of like curatorial governance or governing curation, and marrying like bottoms up curation with top down curation. And I think you can only really do that if you give people like a say and you give people a stake, right? And so I've really always wanted a coin for that reason. Like I will also tell you that like I see crypto as like a means to an end. I personally, you know, it's kind of funny and corny when people quote how long they've been in the space, but just like I'm about to do it, so I'm a hypocrite. But like I have personally been in crypto since 2017, you know, and it's interested me for a really long time. I remember folks having Bitcoin in college because they were like buying shit on the Silk Road. Yeah, I have always been like a little bit hesitant or just try to be thoughtful about how you do it with like a company. And so, yeah, I feel like now it feels like the right time for a bunch of reasons, namely because Believe exists. And I'm a fan of like taking a percentage of the volume and the trading and the fees rather than like just like owning a percent and then dumping it on people when the timing feels right. I also think, which is something I don't see folks in crypto talking about enough, like I think the market is in a really unique time right now because a lot of the iOS rules are like crumbling because of this lawsuit that Apple has essentially lost. That Spotify, my former employer, and Epic Games were suing Spotify for the ability to direct people to like different ways to pay so that they didn't have to pay the 30% every time somebody signed up to Spotify using like iOS payments. And I think that also leaves a lot of room for like crypto, you know, and like new forms of payments on mobile, which I think is like one of the biggest unlocks for like consumer crypto. The reality is that like most people, their consumer computing experience happens on their phone, and crypto just couldn't, and most people who have a certain level of income that you want to target use iPhones, right? And so you just couldn't reach those people up until like very recently. So like this is in the past month, like this has changed. So I'm really interested in all of these things. I'm interested in curatorial governance. I'm interested in like processing payments using crypto. I'm interested in people like paying us potentially using crypto. So now felt like the right time. I also think like very candidly, I'm very tired of like pitching VCs. Music is like a really challenged category. There've been a lot of failed music tech startups, and as a result, most VCs, like you were saying about crypto projects, and that everybody paints them with a broad brush, like they just view them all as the same. People do that with music tech startups. VCs are like, yeah, I know 2 music startups that failed, so they're all gonna fail. VCs are incredibly pattern matching. And so, yeah, I'm just like tired of having to convince VCs like of what I'm doing is legitimate. So there's also like an internet capital markets reason, and like being able to diversify the ways that we can raise money is also really important. And I think my background is more aligned with like raising money from everyday people who like know who Frank Ocean is, for example, than like you talk to VC, they don't know who that is, just to be honest, you know? So, and working at Spotify, working at SoundCloud, working on influential things at Spotify, I think that just resonates more with the average person on the internet than it does with like a VC. So I would say all of those reasons I'm really interested. The reason for like curatorial governance, the ability to like process and accept crypto payments, and then also just for like internet capital markets reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the product has been launched in 2022, and now it's down for the last little bit, kind of being reworked. Is it live right now? Like if someone listening to this, they couldn't go try it out?
No, I mean it's in the App Store, but it's broken. So we're working on fixing that, and like then I would say hopefully by I try to under promise over deliver, so I don't necessarily want to say things that I can't like back up. But I would say by next week it should be ready to go. I was going to say early next week, but I don't want to like get over my skis. But yeah, the product will be back up and running. I think the nice thing about what we're doing compared to other projects on Believe, with all due respect to them, is that like we've built a lot of technology. Like it's built. This is not like us raising in advance of building the technology. This is like us raising some money to get the technology back up and running. And yeah, I think people will be pleasantly surprised by like how much thought and care and uniqueness has gone into the experience. Like I'm very proud of what we've built. It is visually very engaging, in my opinion. Like it is very hard to build something that has both social features and gaming features, just to be honest. If you want to build in Unity, for example, there's nothing you can do in social, and vice versa. Like traditional mobile app languages like Swift or React Native are very good at like traditional social things like notifications, DMs, but they're really bad at like more intense graphical user interfaces. So we've managed to do something that kind of combines both. So yeah, the app will be up and running by next week, and when it is, I am excited for people to try it out and see for themselves. Also, you combine that with like the unique experience with the unique songs. Like these songs you can't listen to anywhere else, and there's a description of these songs, and I think people will be like also pleasantly surprised by the music. So I'm excited.
Nice. Are you bootstrapping this company yourself? Is it venture backed at all? Do you have angel investors? What does that part look like?
Yeah, we're venture backed, but we've like pretty much run out of money. That's like very candidly. I'm not like a bullshitter. A lot of money was spent on developing the product. Also, we were very slow to monetize, which I think like hurt us. We never charged anybody. We used to charge people actually as like a pricing experiment to see how much people would pay, because I think that was one of the main questions that we had, is how much are people willing to pay for a second music streaming service? And we found we got good data on that they're willing to pay pretty much the same that they are as Spotify, like $10 a month. But then we refunded everybody, again, because I've always been interested in the long term over the short term, and it didn't feel fair to me that we had some people as our like A/B tester guinea pigs that had to pay, and then others didn't. So I didn't ever want someone to be like, how come you paid and I didn't, or how come I had to pay and you didn't? So yeah, we ended up refunding everybody, but that's the kind of example where like maybe we should have like kept that money.
Well, I appreciate that you're trying to do that ethically, and you're thinking of the consumer, even if it's just $10, giving that back to them. It's a nice thought, and also being honest here and just being straight up saying like, yeah, we are venture backed and we're running low on funds. That honesty is really refreshing, especially in crypto, because there's so many people who misconstrue things or say one thing privately and then say another thing publicly. So I really appreciate that kind of honesty. I think it's a lot of what people care about is, we're betting on founders to build a certain product, and you want to know that the person isn't going to be bullshitting you. So that's a great approach. I like that you're doing that. Keep that up.
Totally. Yeah, I would just say like people don't know me that well in real life, but like all of my friends know that I really try to live my life by the mantra, like, say what you mean and do what you say. Like, I don't really sugarcoat things. Like, I'm going to give you direct, honest feedback sometimes. Like, if my friends are half an hour late, I'm going to tell them, like, it annoyed me. Like, I'm not going to pretend like everything was cool, and then also, if I say something, I try as hard as I can to make sure that it comes to fruition, and I just won't say it otherwise. So, like, even like I was saying about the app being in the App Store and working next week, I don't want to say it'll be ready by Monday and then it's not ready by Monday. Like, you know what I mean? I want people to have trust in me, and you only do that if you're really methodical and meticulous with your word, I think.
Yeah. So, how has the token launch been, and do you have ideas for how you want it integrated into the platform yet, or are you still cooking on that?
Yeah, the token launch has been good. I've been happy with it. We've generated like good amounts of money without having a crazy market cap, so I'm happy about that. I think what I've been most pleasantly surprised about and happy with is that like the floor has really maintained, and I can tell like there's a certain number of people that really believe and are like joining Marine Snow for the long term, which is really important to me. One of the big reasons also why I was very hesitant to launch a token up until pretty recently is that like the crypto world is so short-term focused, so hyper short-term, right? Solana world in particular, like, you sometimes have like 15 minutes to be in a coin, right? Like if that, and that's just doesn't really align with like my worldview or how I think about building things. Like I want to build things for the long term, and I'm a little less interested in like the short-term spikes and ups and downs and vicissitudes. So and it's pleased me to see that there are other people who've bought into what we're doing in the long term, So, I would say we're still figuring out. I have some specific ideas on how to integrate the coin into the product. I think like one of those ideas is around like the governing of curation and people being able to stake being able to stake the token to recommend songs. And if we end up acquiring that song, they would get a financial reward. It's almost like betting to a friend that the song is good, right? Except the friend is the platform.
I like that idea. I always thought it'd be cool to do that with like TikTok or YouTube videos where you could like maybe buy into like shares of the video. And in my head, it was always like maybe you could buy a share of a YouTube video and then you get all the like the portion of the ad revenue that it creates going forward, something like that. Where you can bet on it,
I think that's a great idea. I think I'm interested in that, but like at the platform level, so that like there's not all this pressure on one artist to like deliver the return for that token in the specific piece of content. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think if you do it at the platform level and like a set of content, then I think you can like smooth things out a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, my idea was just like some random thought I had in the ar. I'm never going to do anything with it, but
it's funny because your idea, people have thought about it. Like it's existed in Music Royal, other Web3 music companies. I just don't think it works once you get to like the second order effects. Whereas I think investing at the platform level, where the platform has unique songs, is the way to like spread things out and also reduce the pressure on any one artist. So
makes a lot of sense.
And maybe just to give an example. And one additional thing I'll say is that like I love crypto, and this is actually where I was going when I was mentioning being in the space since 2017, but I forgot, is that like I love crypto. I've been in the space since 2017. I've been in meme coins for like 2+ years, like my favorite meme coin was like Harold, which was like this duck like 2 years ago, which is just a funny duck. So I've seen the space really intimately and have been involved getting my fingernails dirty. But nevertheless, I very much view crypto as a technology and like a means to an end. And so in the same way that I would never describe Marine Snow as like a React Native company or a Python company, right? Because React Native and Python are means to ends, right? I would also never describe Marine Snow as a crypto company, just to be honest. And so what I'm really interested in is applications where crypto uniquely enables certain things, not just doing crypto for crypto's sake or a token for a token's sake. And what I'm specifically interested in is like I said, that synthesis of top-down and bottoms-up curation, because I like to think I have pretty good taste in music. I've like been immersed in the indie music industry in New York for 10 years at this point. I helped work on a playlist that's pretty well known at Spotify, but nevertheless, I'm never going to have perfect insight into all the best music in the world, right? And the example that I use all the time is like, I love music. I have a pretty like geographically diverse taste in music, but like, if I want to know more about Korean drum and bass, let's just say that, I am not the person to know what the best Korean drum and bass is, right? Like, I don't live in Korea. I don't speak Korean, right? And even if I did both of those things, there's probably somebody who's like in that scene, right? Who's a little bit better equipped. And I want to be able to empower that person to bring us the best of these little micro local scenes, right? Because that's really the only way you have truly the best music in the world, is if you're able to hit every corner, every crevice, every like little shadow of music and pull out the best. It's no different than like mining for gold or like hunting for oil. You have to be able to like go deep in the water or like dig through a bunch of rocks and like, you know, sand to get to the gold, right? And so that's really what I think a token enables, is to like create a system of incentives to enable and incentivize people at a grassroots level to bring music to everybody else.
I love it. I think that's really well said and a good place to end it. We're running out of time here. Tony, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to keep up with you and see what you're updating on Marine Snow, where's the best place they can do that?
Yeah, you can do it on my Twitter. It's Tony with 3 O's and then L. It's like what the Brits say when a good song comes on. Tune! So that was my Twitter handle. And or you can follow the Marine Snow handle, equally like cryptic. It's Marine and then 5 underscores and then Snow. And because Marine has 6 letters and then 5 underscores and then Snow has 4. So yeah, those are the best places to find me.
Got it. Awesome. I'll be sure to link those in the description. And thank you so much, Tony, for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This was great. I enjoyed it. You know, I'm really passionate about this stuff, so I love talking about it.
Me too. Me too. All right. Till next time, Tony.
Wonderful. Take care.